What's going on, guys? My name is Based on Impulse and welcome back to the channel. So today we'll be starting a new series here on the channel called Get It Before It's Gone, where I'll be taking you all through how to complete different seals, quests, and other pursuits in the game quickly before they are thrown into the Destiny content vault come November. The first item on our list is going to be the Blacksmith Title. I just recently finished mine after deciding to stop procrastinating my weapon frames, and you can honestly knock this seal out pretty quickly if you're efficient. And that's what we're all about here. I also picked this as the first item slash seal to cover in the series because there's a lot of confusion about how some of the triumphs work since Bungie updated the forges in Shadowkeep. So let's go ahead and talk about the best way to get Blacksmith before the title goes away. So first and foremost, we have the collections badge. The 7 weapons you can earn very easily. Just go pick up the frames from Ada, do each one of them, and boom, you've got all 7. At this point, that's really all you need to do. The weapons themselves are all being sunset, so I wouldn't go crazy over your rolls or trying to farm for better ones unless you really have nothing else to do. The armor in this collections badge is also randomly dropped from forge completions as well as weekly or rare black armory bounties. You can purchase a consumable from Ada 1 called the Forge Polymer, which will guarantee you an armor drop after successfully forging a weapon. Something very important to note for the weapons and armor: once you get them, lock them and vault them. You may need them later when you're working on rare bounties, so it's easier to have them on hand in the vault rather than having to regrind them. I totally didn't have to regrind several times for my rare bounties. The Platinum Starling ship comes from another triumph in this title that we'll talk about in just a bit, so we're going to skip over that for now. All of the forge emblems can be obtained by completing a forge ignition in each forge, so you'll get these passively just by working on everything else in this seal. These 2 emblems that I have in my collection, Obsidian Dreams and Hubris of Niobe, are not actually required for the collections badge. That's why they might not be showing up in yours. The quest tied to the Obsidian Dreams emblem is required though, and we'll get to that later, but the Hubris of Niobe emblem as well as the Niobe Labs Ghost Shell are both not required for the badge. Finally, the hardest part of the collections badge is going to be the house shaders. These shaders are tied to a specific forge and can only be obtained by a random chance on specific weapons or armor that drop in that forge. There are 2 exceptions though. The refurbished black armory shader, which can drop on any of the random weapons from the end of forges, like the Galliard or Atalanta with a lot of numbers and letters after it. If you get one of these from the end of a forge, dismantling it should net you the shader. The other is Burgusian Knight, which can drop only on curated Forge or Scourge of the past weapons. Back to the house shaders though, the way that you can earn these shaders was not actually updated when the way that forges work changed. Originally, only certain weapons could be made in each forge. For example, you could only forge the Kindled Orchid hand cannon and Tatara Gaze sniper in the Gofanon forge. You couldn't forge them in any of the 4. Even though Bungie changed this, so now you can do it in any of the 4, those old rules for the shaders still apply. So here's the rundown of what weapon frames you need to complete to get what shaders. The Rasmussen Clan shader has a chance to drop when you dismantle a Hammerhead, Ringing Nail, or Striker's Surehand forged in the Volunder Forge. The House of Mayron shader can drop when you dismantle a Kindled Orchid or Tatara Gaze forged in the Gofanon Forge. And finally, the Sato Tribe shader can be earned by dismantling a Spiteful Fang or Blast Furnace forged at the Izanami Forge. It is very important to craft a specific weapon in that specific forge, otherwise the shader will not drop on the weapons. I did probably 20 sword frames in one day in the Gofanon Forge, never got House of Mayron, but the first hand cannon frame that I did in there that day dropped with the shader. I could have just been really unlucky, and I'm totally speaking out of turn, but as far as what I can tell from completing these frames and getting these shaders, this is how it works. Also remember to be using the Forge Polymer consumable that I mentioned earlier to give you 2 chances per weapon frame at getting the shader. I have read that this increases your chances of getting the shader because the shader can drop on the armor. I never had that happen. For me, it always came off of weapons, so I don't know if this was changed also in Shadowkeep, but I've seen people saying it's still working, so I don't really know exactly what to tell you on that one. These shaders will be the most elusive and difficult thing to obtain in your collections badge, but if you're having trouble, don't worry, because the next Triumph Master Smith requires you to forge 100 weapon frames. If you desperately need one of the shaders, there's nothing wrong with running that one specific frame over and over in its respective forge to try and get the shader. You won't be wasting your time, as that will still be contributing to 100 weapons forged. But there is a very efficient way to complete the Master Smith Triumph, so let's go ahead and get into a little bit more detail about that. Completing the Master Smith Triumph is how you get the Platinum Starling ship that you need for your collections badge, and that is actually the rarest item in the entire collections badge. This triumph isn't difficult at all, it's just very tedious and time consuming. That's why I recommend working on a lot of other triumphs at the same time as this one. You'll be spending a lot of time in forges for this seal, so chipping away at a couple of triumphs at once will make your life a whole lot easier. The fastest and most efficient weapon frame to complete for this triumph is by far the sword frame. You can pick up a sword frame and be headed to the forge to craft it within 5 minutes if you do what I'm about to tell you. All you need to do is take a sword with you and go to either the Aphelion's Rest Lost Sector in the Dreaming City or the Core Terminus Lost Sector on Mars. When you head into the Lost Sector, keep killing enemies with your sword until your first step for the frame completes. This step is sword multi-kills, so make sure you're chopping the enemies down quickly. After that, you have to collect Radiant Seeds from powerful enemies. Your farm for this is the boss at the end of the Lost Sector. Killing the boss will drop you 10 Radiant Seeds, and you only need 20 to complete the frame. So after killing him, depending on where you are, if you're in Aphelion's Rest, you need to run out and run back in. If you're at Core Terminus, you just need to fast travel out and go back into the Lost Sector. You just run back through and kill the boss again, earning your last 10 Radiant Seeds and finishing the frame. Then you just gotta fly back to 8 at the tower, grab the Radiant frame, run a forge, and you're 1 frame closer to finishing the triumph. The whole process from picking up from Ada and then returning to Ada should probably only take you around 5 to 7 minutes if you're doing this quickly, which makes this by far the best way to farm this triumph. Remember that doing this will only help you get the shader from the Volunder Forge, so I'd recommend only doing this method after you have all 4 shaders that you need. After this, we have the secret triumph to obtain the Obsidian Accelerator. This is a quest line that you unlock over the course of earning the Izanagi's Burden exotic sniper rifle. You know you've unlocked it when you get the mysterious data pad to drop during the course of that quest line. Just complete this quest and grab yourself the triumph. This quest will also net you the Obsidian Dreams emblem, as well as a cool cutscene at the end of it, so it's something worth doing even if you're not necessarily going for the title. Next on the list, we have our bounty triumphs. These 2 triumphs actually go together very well. You need to complete 30 regular bounties and 6 rare bounties. Regular bounties can be purchased from 801 and reset daily. Rare bounties, however, have a chance to drop from completing daily and weekly Black Armory bounties. By the time you complete the 30 for your triumph, you should get a rare bounty or 2 to help towards the 6 that you need. Yeah, the drop chance on them isn't the best, but Bungie did actually change how they drop a while ago in update 2.7.1. The drop chance was altered so that after completing all available daily and weekly bounties on 1 character, this is not across multiple characters, you are guaranteed a rare bounty drop within 5 days. So doing some quick 5-head math, we can determine that with the absolute worst RNG, earning this title will take you at maximum a month to complete if you only play 1 character. But you can absolutely complete it quicker than that. Unless your RNG is really just terrible, in which case I'm sorry. Next up we have the EDZ and Nessus Black Armory Smith triumphs, which are not explained to you well in the game at all, and it's even more confusing now since the way forges work was changed with the release of Shadowkeep. These triumphs tie back to the way that you earn the shaders in your collections badge, so you'll have to forge the Hammerhead machine gun, the Ringing Nail auto rifle, and the Striker's Surehand sword in the EDZ in order to earn the EDZ triumph. As far as I'm aware, this does have to be specifically in Volunder. I do not believe that Berguzia ignitions count. Not 100% sure, but do it in Volunder just to be safe. And you'll need to forge the Kindled Orchid hand cannon, Tatara Gaze sniper, Spiteful Fang bow, and Blast Furnace pulse rifle on Nessus to earn your Nessus triumph. You need to forge each weapon once on its respective planet in its correct forge, just like you have to with the house shaders. It's not explained to you well in the game, so I just wanted to give you some clarification on that. It's not any more complicated than that. You just got to forge the weapon where it's supposed to be forged. Next, we've got the 500 kills in forges with different weapons. The hardest part of this is really just getting the weapons, and the only one directly tied to RNG now is the threat level. The quests for Le Monarch, Jotun, and Izanagi's Burden can all be picked up from 801. They do require you to wait for weekly resets in order to earn the weapons, so just chip away at these quests as you're working on things earlier in the seal. To get the threat level, just run Scourge of the Past a few times and hope you get lucky. With the uncapped rewards that we have now for Moments of Triumph, it's a good time to get your hands on one. The only tips I can really give you for these triumphs is work on them as you're working on your weapon frames if you want to multitask. If you want to knock them out quickly, just get a couple of your friends to go into a forge with you and get the forge 1 or 2 balls away from fully charging. Then you can just kill the enemies with the specific weapon you need over and over and over, and throw the ball to finish the charge just before time runs out. If you can't do either of these methods, you could just solo queue into the forges and just get kills and not worry about throwing charges or anything. While it's an option, it's probably the worst option because you're messing up other people's experience in the forges, so use that as a last resort option if you're a solo player or none of your friends are online. And now that we've knocked out all the forged triumphs, it's time to move into the Scourge of the Past raid. Yes, you are going to have to go into the raid in order to complete the seal. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of each challenge, and then we'll just have a quick chat about the flawless. The challenge for the first encounter is called Hold the Line. This is probably the simplest of the 3 challenges for Scourge. All you have to do is make sure that the timer on the map never goes below 50%. With an efficient team, this shouldn't give you much of a headache. And then the next 2 triumphs aren't exactly challenges for the Sparrow section, but you do need them for the title. The first one states that everyone in your fire team has to make it through the Sparrow chase section without dying. While you can do this legit, there's an easy way to cheese this triumph. You can actually do this while still having people in your fire team die. All you have to do is when the remaining fire team members make it to the end, they need to wait outside the chest room right on the ledge outside. Everyone that died needs to make their way back up to the chest from the parkour area when the game respawns them and wait at the end of the hall for the countdown. Someone in the fire team will count down 3, 2, 1, go, and all 6 of you will run to the chest at the same time. This will give you the triumph if you do it correctly. It's not super hard to execute, so this should be much easier than trying to get 6 people through that whole thing without dying because, yeah, it's not easy. The other triumph tied to the Sparrow section is the Raider of the Lost Treasure triumph. This just requires you to open the chest at the end of the Sparrow section 5 times. It's really easy, just hit the buttons and open the chest. Moving on to the next actual raid challenge, we have the All for One, One for All challenge. This is definitely the biggest headache for the raid challenges. I'll try to explain it to you simply. Basically what you have to do here is that each fire team member must dunk each symbol, circle, square, triangle, once during the encounter. Yes, this challenge requires a 3-phase of the tank damage. Here's how you should execute it. Split your team into 3 groups of 2. Each group will have one person start up top and the other will start underneath by grabbing the symbols. Assign a rotation for picking up the buffs such as CAP, ACP, whatever your raid team normally does for boss damage. For example's sake, I'm going to use CAP because that's the correct way. So team 1 will grab C, then A, then P. Team 2 grabs A, then P, then C. And team 3 will grab P, then C, then A. You should also assign each letter to a bank, like in this amazing and professionally done artwork. Yes, I am accepting commissions. This just ensures that no buff's going to end up in the wrong place. So in this example, people with C will always bank at 1, A buffs will bank at 2, and P buffs will always bank at 3. The 3 players going down first will each grab a buff, the team outside will kill the servitor, and the teams will swap. The players outside will go to grab buffs, and the buff team will go dunk their buff at the correct bank and kill the servitor when the other team tells them to. Then you'll do damage. I would say you want to try to get the boss down somewhere around 2/3 to a half of his health bar. Rinse and repeat that same process 2 more times and make sure that you are grabbing a different buff every time you go down. Good news for you guys is that the final boss fights challenge is way easier than that challenge we just did. This challenge is literally just each person has to destroy 1 shield on the boss. He has 6 all around his body, so just have everyone call one out beforehand, and everyone only shoots the one they called. It's pretty hard to mess this up outside of poor communication. If you're on PC, just put it in text chat to make it easy. Console players, just try your best to remember, I guess. And now that we covered everything else in the title, let's sit down and talk about that final big scary triumph. The Like a Diamond triumph requires you to complete the flawless version of Scourge of the Past. You activate the flawless by stepping on plates throughout the Batsa downtown area. I'll put a link in the description that shows you where they all are. This is actually probably the easiest flawless to do, at least in my opinion. You can cheese the Sparrow section by having everyone but 2 people leave for it, and then have everyone join back once the encounter's over. That's the hardest part of the flawless. The only other things that you're really in danger of dying to are the boss's stomp mechanic, snipers, and being a little reckless around berserkers. And what I mean by that is just not killing the ads that spawn with them before taking their shield down. Just take the ads out first, you've got nothing to worry about. This flawless really is the easiest one to do in my opinion, but if you do need help, remember that I do often help with PvE content if you're in either my Twitch streams or Discord server. And that, guys, is my quick and easy guide to getting the Blacksmith title. If you found the video helpful, a positive rating would be greatly appreciated. If we could hit 15 likes on this video, that would be awesome, guys. Also, remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new guides. My Discord, Twitch, and Twitter links are in the description box down below as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to see you all as blacksmiths very soon.